You know that weird feeling you get when your AI starts to remember you, but then somehow it just gets worse? Well, it's not just you. This is a real, bona fide problem, and some of the smartest people in AI are starting to sound the alarm.
And look, when I say top minds, I mean people like Andrej Karpathy, one of the key brains behind, well, a lot of the AI we all use every single day. He flat out said that for these large language models, the tech that powers ChatGPT and all the others, their memory features are actually making them dumber, not smarter. It's that creepy thing where an AI brings up a tiny detail from a chat you had weeks ago and just gets stuck on it. And wow, did that idea resonate. His post just blew up. We're talking 1.7 million views. It's clear he hit a nerve. Because this isn't just some little bug in one specific app. Nope. This is a fundamental flaw that's hitting all the big ones: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, the whole shebang. Okay, so Karpathy nailed the what. He pointed out the problem perfectly. But that leaves us with two massive questions, right? First, why does this even happen? And second, and maybe more importantly, is there anything we can actually do to fix it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. It all comes down to something with a pretty fitting name: the context bias trap. And it's this wild paradox, really. The very thing that makes these AIs feel so smart, their ability to remember the context of a conversation, ends up being their Achilles heel. So what does context bias actually mean? Well, think of an AI's short-term memory, its context window, as the only thing it can see. It's been trained to believe that everything inside that window is 100% true, the gospel. And because of that, it gets trapped in this echo chamber, just repeating and reinforcing its own ideas, and becoming completely blind to its own mistakes. This right here is the perfect way to picture it. Asking an AI to check its own work in the same chat session, that's just like you trying to proofread your own email 2 seconds after you wrote it. You're not going to see the typos because your brain reads what it meant to say. But give that same text to the AI in a brand new, totally fresh session, now it can see what was actually written, warts and all. And this isn't just a feeling or a theory. We've got hard data on this. And honestly, it's pretty shocking. Research found that when an LLM tries to review its own work in the same session, it misses, get this, nearly 2/3 of its own mistakes. 64.5%. That is a massive blind spot. So yeah, maybe think twice next time you ask it to just double check something. Okay, so the problem is huge, right? It feels kind of broken. But here's the good news. The fix is actually surprisingly simple. It's elegant. Researchers call it the fresh session fix, or to be more formal, cross-context review. The basic idea is just this. You take whatever the AI created, could be code, an email, a report, anything, and you copy-paste it into a completely new, totally blank chat window. This new session has zero memory of the old conversation, none of the back and forth, and, crucially, none of the bias. And does it work? Oh, yeah. The results are just dramatic. The data shows this huge leap in finding errors when you use this fresh session method. We're not talking about a small improvement here. This is a genuine, fundamental upgrade to the quality you can get from an AI. And check this out, because this is where it gets really critical. When we're talking about the big mistakes, the really bad show-stopping errors, the performance gap is even wider. The fresh session method catches 40% of those critical flaws, compared to just 29% in the old biased way. I mean, that's a huge difference when it really counts. So this pretty much debunks a myth that I think a lot of us fall for. When you just tell the AI, hey, try that again, or can you review that for mistakes? The research shows that doing that in the same chat, it does almost nothing. The magic isn't asking it to repeat itself, it's all about separation. Now, this is the part I love, because it's not just some cool idea stuck in a research paper. Nope, someone actually took this concept and turned it into a practical tool that you can go and use, like, right now. This is where the theory gets real. The tool is called CCR, which stands for Cross-Context Review. It's open source, and for anyone out there who's a developer, you can install it with one simple command. It's basically taking this powerful academic trick and putting it right into the hands of anyone who builds stuff with AI. So how does this thing actually work under the hood? Well, you can think of it like an AI quality control team. First, it snags the final output and scrubs it clean of all the chat history and bias. Then, and this is the cool part, it sends that clean text to 3 separate AI reviewers. Each one is in its own fresh session. Finally, a fourth AI, the director, looks at all 3 reviews and figures out where they all agree. And right there, that's the secret sauce. If 2 or even 3 of those independent AIs who can't see each other's work all flag the same problem, the tool marks it with a star. That's your signal. That's how you know you've found a real, genuine error, not just another random AI making stuff up. All right, but now for the ultimate test of confidence, right? To prove this whole system actually worked, the researchers did something pretty meta. They used their own tool to help write and review the very research paper we're talking about. They basically bet their whole project on their own system.
So here's the cast of characters they set up. First, you have T1, the producer AI. Its job was to write the paper, and of course, it thought its work was absolutely perfect. Then they brought in the specialists. T4 was the fresh eyes reviewer. It could only see the final draft, no other context. And T5 was the fact checker, with one single mission: go online and verify every single citation in the paper.
And the result? It was amazing. The Fresh Eyes agent, T4, almost immediately spotted 3 major logical flaws in the paper. Even better, the fact checker, T5, caught the original AI completely hallucinating. It had just made up 5 fake author names for the references. These are the exact kinds of embarrassing mistakes that the first AI, trapped in its own little bubble, would never, ever have found on its own. It's just a perfect showcase. Okay, so let's wrap up with the big takeaways here. First, context bias isn't a fluke. It's a real structural problem in pretty much all the LLMs we use. Second, the way to beat it is to separate the creating from the reviewing. Use a fresh session. Remember that key phrase: isolation, not repetition. And finally, the best part is you don't have to do this manually. Open source tools like CRR can automate this whole process for you.
And this all leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending thought. For years, the big race in AI has been about more. More data, bigger models, massive context windows. Just cram in more information. But if this research proves that sometimes strategically giving the AI less information, isolating it, actually helps it think more clearly, well, what does that really mean for how we should be using these things? It kind of makes you rethink everything, doesn't it?